Week 2 started with a bang. Trevor Lawrence played better. Y'all happy yet? Everybody okay? All right. Then tune in for Locked On Jaguars in just a second.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
She ain't just saying that just to say it. She's right. It is your team every day here on Locked On Jaguars. We thank you for making us your first listen, and you can find us in multiple places. You ready? Here you go. Go over to YouTube. That's right. Locked On Jaguars, the page that says Locked On Jaguars. Make sure you, first of all, subscribe, then hit the like button, then hit the like button 2 more times just in case you didn't get that right. Make sure you also hit that bell so you get notifications each and every time we drop an episode on Locked On Jaguars. And then wherever you get your podcast that you listen to, you know, the audio version, make sure you tap into that location each and every day so you do not miss an episode of Locked On Jaguars, because we will be there every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more as playoffs wind down. The sport stops sporting like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Shout out to our everydayers for making us an everyday thing here on Locked On Jaguars. We really appreciate it. And you could be an everyday if you're not one. All you got to do is wait for it. Tune in every single day and you can be an everyday. All right, here we go. This is what we're going to do. Is there a double standard going on with the offense and the defense in the way that fans and media are talking about them? We'll land the plane right there on that runway in about 27, 28 minutes. But before then, BTJ will be okay. What does that mean? That means Brian Thomas Jr., according to Doug Pederson, is right where he's supposed to be. But first, we're going to talk about what Doug Pederson said about Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars offense. If you haven't been following, it appears that the offense is not doing as well as the defense so far in training camp. Last week, there was interceptions, back-to-back interceptions every single day. Not one practice went by where there was not an interception. Folks talked about how the offensive line appeared to be getting dominated by the defensive line. Folks also mentioned that it appears that the coverage of the defensive backs was way ahead of the offense. Well, Doug Pederson spoke about that this morning prior to the start of week 2 at Jacksonville Jaguars 2024 Jaguars training camp. And Doug Pederson did what I kind of felt like Doug Pederson was going to do. Now, do I think he told the truth? Yeah, I think he told his truth. You notice I said his truth. But I also think he was very, very honest about the fact that they have been a little bit vanilla. They're not scheming. The fact that they're not scheming, it was, they've kind of been vanilla a little bit, but the defense is scheming them up, and it's a iron sharpens iron type of situation. I agree with all of that. I totally do. And how they're learning things, and the defense is doing this and doing that, and it's only been 1 week, and in the words of Doug Pederson, it's not like we're in week 5. It's week 1, and it's practice. We're not scheming. It's one-on-ones. They know what we're doing. We're only basically paraphrasing. They're only running 5 or 6 plays. They're going to run them over and over again against different looks and allow Trevor Lawrence and the rest of the offense to see what it looks like with different schemes. All of that stuff is true. So 2 things can be true simultaneously, right? They can be vanilla. They can be running things to try to sharpen themselves up because that's what practice does. Trevor's fine, but, and I say but with all due respect to Doug Pederson and everybody else. I saw a couple of passes last week that it did not matter what the scheme was. I saw a couple of passes last week from Trevor Lawrence. There were balls that he should not have thrown, okay? So let's just say if we could be a fly on the wall, what did Doug Pederson tell Trevor Lawrence about a couple of those passes, particularly the 2 that really started a little bit of an uproar when Dewey Wingard picked Trevor off twice within 5 minutes with what looks like the exact same throw to the same spot. Well, you ain't going to be able to do that against that defense, Trev. I know why you threw it, but check this out. You can't do it. All of those things. Those are probably the things that he probably said to him. And Trevor probably may beat him to the punch and told him, look, I know I can't do those things. And I heard somebody say today, well, the ball was got to be thrown because I said you could throw it away. In those particular situations I'm talking about, there were throwaway opportunities. But maybe you don't learn anything from throwing it away. Maybe you learn, or maybe you try to fit the ball in those situations because you thought you saw something. And maybe the defense is doing just that good of a job. And see, that's what we're going to talk about in segment 3, because maybe the defense is doing just such a good job that it makes it look like the offense is playing poorly. But here's where the experience comes into play. And this is very, very important. This ain't my first training camp, and it's not the first training camp for a whole bunch of people I know that are at camp that only reported what they saw. Here's what we can't do. And I want people to understand this. There's a lot of friends of mine. There's a lot of people I respect that listen to this podcast. I'm going to explain something to you. I'm going to go behind the veil a little bit. And while it might be a little bit boring, just please bear with me before we get back to BTJ and all that stuff. Something happens. We tell you, if you're not at practice, what happened. We tell you, as I did last week on the podcast, and I'm not assuming that everyone who's listening now listened then. Oh, Lord, here we go. I got to keep reporting on this stuff because I know it's going to get blown out of proportion. I have said over the years that I'm not going to get too flappable, high or low, based on things that I see guys do when they're in shorts. I've said it over and over again. Good things or bad things. I'm not going to ebb and flow emotionally by watching guys that have to work on something. And I'll use an analogy right before we take our first break here and time out. I'm not going to bug out because I have a privilege to see something that ought to be looking kind of messed up. That is what they do when they work on stuff. No, I ain't going to wait. I'm going to give it to you right now. I saw a Chris Brown concert about 2 years ago. It was one of the greatest things I've ever seen. And I've used this example before. But I didn't see Chris Brown 9 months prior to that rehearsing when him and those background singers were making mistakes. I didn't. I saw one concert online where Chris Brown was on the little thing where the thing had him up in the air and it got stuck and he couldn't get down and they had to bring a ladder out. See, so what I'm saying is you don't get to bring a ladder out during the game. Those are usually things that happen in practice. So the privilege to watch those things also has to be tempered by the fact that those mistakes happening in practice happen all the time, everywhere. And it depends on a team being able to get it right before it's time to put it on display. So that's a reason why you don't panic, because it doesn't count with wins and losses. I'd be doing a disservice if I saw it and didn't report on it. And it's not just about me. This is about all the local guys, because everybody screams about national people all the time. And there's a bunch of local guys, whether it's written or doing podcasts, that are doing the best job that they can. What I think people want us to do, and when I say us, I'm talking about folks who actually go to practice. I think they still want you to tell them what they want to hear. I think they want you to assume that just because you see it in practice doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen in the game. And I think that's an assumption that everybody is already operating under. But we still have to tell you what is being seen. And then we have to tell you what is about to be said. And then we got to tell you all of the nuances of whether or not you should garbage in, garbage out those conversations. But what we can't do, and they can do it if they want to, but if somebody does this, they're wrong. We can't just assume that just because we see something happen in practice and because it's practice that, oh, it's not going to happen in the game. Don't worry about it. See, now that would be a reach and that would be a lie, because I've done this. I've been to 11 or 12 straight training camps. And a lot of times, the stuff you see in practice, when you see mistakes happen on Sunday, it is something that is very familiar to people who have been in practice and that saw those things happening. Yeah. Do you recall last year when things were happening and Doug Pederson said, or I don't know if it was him, I think it was Trevor Lawrence. Somebody said, yeah, basically what you're seeing is the way we've been practicing. Boom, bingo, stop. There you go. When I saw Blake Bortles throw 5 interceptions in practice, and he had a whole bunch of interceptions that season, boom, there you go again. What you see will affect what you say and what you think, no matter who it is. So I will never pacify people by making folks feel comfortable and pretending I didn't see what I saw. And I hope no one does that. But Doug Pederson, and this is a question that we're going to carry over to segment 2, took up for Trevor, as he should have. As he should have. But remember, this is a team that last year felt like they probably went a little soft, that they waited for things to happen. And I don't know if I want to hear the head coach coming into a season where they're going to do things a little bit differently. Not at least say, we can't have it. Yeah, those are things that we're working on, and we're a little bit behind right now, but we got to fix that. That's what we have to fix. We have to fix it now. This is the time to fix it now so that it does not hang on during the season. And we think we're going to be able to do that this week. That's kind of what I wanted to hear. I didn't want to hear that. Yeah, man, well, it's only the first week. Excuses lead to weakness. But I get it, and I understand. And I'm not calling Doug a liar at all. And I think he's correct. But there can be 2 things that need to be correct. This is about the things that happen. This is kind of the way it happens. And then on the other side is, but this is the time for us to fix it so it doesn't hang out during the season. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I got a problem with anybody that does think that something's wrong with people thinking that way. I'm going to tell you why Trevor Lawrence and Brian Thomas Jr. took a nice little step today to quiet all of this down. And that's what has to quiet it down. Not a coach at a podium. It has to quiet down when people who are responsible for making it change give you some demonstrated performance. I'm going to tell you all about that in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. But first, I'm going to let you know about today's sponsor, which is FanDuel. I don't know about y'all, but I love sports. I love them so much, I never want them to go away and stop. But as the playoffs in basketball ended, we get fewer games. And all the sports aren't sporting like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I got to do is open up the app and dream up bets anytime. And I'm in the mood, and bang, it happens. This summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head to FanDuel.com and start making the most of your summer. That's right. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. The Yankees got cold, but then they got a little hot again over the weekend, beat the hated Red Sox. But make sure you visit FanDuel.com to look at odds and all of that before you make your wager. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. All right. Back here, Locked On Jaguars. Well, we ain't really been nowhere except training camp. Kind of hung out in the stands for a little while today just to get a little bit of a different vantage point and stop walking all around. And I needed to be in the shade because I don't have a black t-shirt. But shout out to the Jaguars. Nice camp. Very organized, as most of them are around the league. Gives fans to have a very, very different point of view. Today, the point of view that they had was they saw what their first round draft pick, Brian Thomas Jr. from Louisiana State University, can do. He caught a contested ball for what would have been a touchdown down the field from Trevor Lawrence. And that's exactly why he was brought here. Brian Thomas Jr. or BTJ will be okay. Doug Pederson says he's right where he's supposed to be. I think so many people have been used to the demonstrative alpha diva type wide receiver that Brian Thomas Jr., his demeanor, and I call him Sleepy BTJ because he's just calm and cool and collect. If Snoop Dogg, and I ain't talking about, doing nothing to make your mind not right. I ain't talking about smoking or puff puff. But if Snoop Dogg was a football player, he'd probably be Brian Thomas Jr. Brian Thomas Jr. laid back, man. He's laid back. I talked to Kanani Stevens, who works in social media for the Jaguars the other day. And I think it was Kanani that I spoke with, but I told somebody there's been a receiver in the league. There's been a couple of them in the league that are kind of just like that. This will predate a lot of people, but any 49er fans can remember John Taylor. John Taylor, I knew a guy who played on the team with John Taylor. He said you couldn't get John Taylor to say nothing, man. He just went out and played. He was the receiver who was opposite Jerry Rice, I think in Jerry's first 5 or 6 years. And he was like, some people thought he was just as good as like the Michael Irvins of the world, but he was never going to get the credit because he was opposite Jerry Rice. But John Taylor was a great, great player. He's as quiet as can be, though. Wasn't trying to make all that noise. Wasn't a rah-rah guy. Wasn't none of that stuff. Sometimes you just get guys that are that way. Some of them are kind of quiet. Some of them don't play with all of the demonstrative rah-rah-rah. You don't always need it. I often told people, I gave a basketball analogy about that years ago. I said, look, everybody can't be Kevin Garnett. Some guys got to be Tim Duncan. Everybody's not going to be Draymond. Sometimes you got to be Udonis Haslem. Everybody going to make a bunch of noise. Everybody's not going to pound their chest. Everybody's not going to be Russell Westbrook. It's okay to be Drew Holiday. And in this case, Brian Thomas Jr. looks like he's just learning. He's learning and learning and learning. And you can mistake the way that he acts or the way that he moves around for complacency or being lackadaisical. I think he's just so damn athletic, it makes everything look easy. I think he's so athletic. He is about if the anti I'm always open was a player, that's who it is. He ain't gonna say nothing. He's just gonna play. And I think we have to get used to that. And I think we have to understand that he's a rookie wide receiver who probably he knows he has the physical ability. He probably wants his navigation system, which is the one in his head. He is probably chomping at the bit for that to catch up to his physical ability. And the worst thing that you can do is just be running fast in the wrong direction. But there's a balance between that, I believe, and also going so slow that if you know how you're driving, you don't know where you're going and you're looking around, you even turn the radio down, which makes no sense to me because, I mean, the radio ain't stopping you from seeing, but that's probably what he's going through. The way that he's going to constantly get better is to constantly keep paying attention. And Doug Pederson talked about how coachable he is, how he learns stuff, how he retains everything. And I do believe that that's very important. I anticipate he's going to lead the league, well, not the league, but the team in yards per catch. He may even lead the team in touchdowns. He may even lead the team in catches over 25 yards. I don't know if he's going to lead the league or the team in receptions. I don't think he's that kind of guy. I really don't. Better day from Trevor Lawrence. Better day from Brian Thomas Jr. Pads come on tomorrow. I'll be there front and center. I'm going to answer this question. I'm going to answer this question. Is there a double standard with the offense and the defense? You damn right there is. And I'll tell you why in segment number 3 here on Locked on Jaguars after I let you know this. If you're watching Fox Sports or ESPN all day on your TV and you got to turn the volume down because they're screaming, shouting, and yelling at each other and just trying to be right, well, make the switch to Locked on Sports today. A free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked on Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the Free Fire the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Man, I love saying that because it's true. It's your team every day. And guess what? It's going to be your team in segment 3 when we answer that question about the double standard between the way the offense and the defense are viewed. We'll do it in just a second. After I tell you about today's sponsor, this is GameTime. GameTime is the app that you all need, man, especially if you buy tickets to sporting events, plays, concerts, what have you. If they sell tickets for them, GameTime has it. And you need to get up on GameTime because if you're like me, sometimes you have to wait till the last minute to get your tickets. And that is not something that GameTime is going to hold against you. In fact, your lack of planning becomes their emergency. They focus on last-minute tickets, flash deals, and zone deals. I'm telling you, that is the biggest thing for me. It is a priority for them on last-minute tickets. You can save up to 60% off buying last-minute tickets for all of your events. Just take the guesswork out of buying tickets, Major League Baseball or concert. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL, all one word, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code. I'm going to spell it for you. LOCKEDONNFL, LOCKEDON, NFL, for $20 off. Download GameTime today. Last-minute tickets. Lowest price guaranteed. All right, third, final segment here on Locked On Jaguars. We're at your team every day. We thank you for making us your first listen as training camp started up for week 2. One thing we can't expect, you can expect not to continue to hear where we're only in this week, where we're only in that week. It's not going to happen. In fact, Trevor was probably as demonstrative as he's ever been with correcting wide receivers and tight ends today. He's vocal. And see, that's the thing we need. We need to understand that folks yelling at folks or being vocal or making correction is because they got love for each other. It's not because they're trying to deflect. And many times, the things that are being said can be misconstrued as people arguing. That's not it. There's nothing wrong with leading by being demonstrative and being loud and yelling, especially when you want someone to do something well. That goes from Trevor to his wide receivers, and in my opinion, it goes from the coaching staff to Trevor Lawrence. But I noticed something with how it's being reported, and I talked about it in the first segment. Defense is lights out, man. It's the defense. Fans are saying, it's the defense, man. The defense. How come we just can't say the defense is playing well? Because if the offense was slicing and dicing that defense, you know what we'd say? Oh, man, it's a new defense, and it's the same offense they've had for 3 years. Got to give them time to learn what Coach Nielsen wants them to do. They're going from a 3-4 to a 4-3, and they're just trying to figure it out where the offense, they're still running the same stuff they've been running. Well, that's why you just have to be honest with what you see and let people be angry at the reasoning for it, or let people get upset. I got a solution for you. All you got to do is take the day off and go out to training camp, and then you come back and tell us what you saw. You can't lie about what you saw. Now, you can lie about what it means, or you can have a different interpretation about what it means for the future and whether or not it's a big deal and all of those things. But the truth of the matter is, if you see something 9 times out of 10, your headline or your thumbnail is going to talk about the thing that you saw. I do believe a lot of people read headlines and thumbnails and all of a sudden think that that's the entire story. No, that's the topic. And here's what we're going to do. If you listen to the shows, we'll break it down and we'll discuss it. I know that's what we do here on Locked On Jaguars. It is not the job for us to sit here and make you mad. I want you to come back and be happy, but I want you to come back because I'm telling you the truth. And I don't want you to be here because I'm sugarcoating something for you, making you feel good about something, and then it's fool's gold, and then you're all disappointed. The best thing we could do here on Locked On Jaguars is tell you the truth and allow you to make an informed decision on how you're going to react to it and have a good common sense discussion about the pros and cons for everything. So, yeah, there's a double standard. There's a serious double standard. And that is because, and I understand it, people want Trevor Lawrence to succeed. People are sick and tired of national people saying he wasn't worth the money. People are sick and tired of folks talking about all those turnovers without giving context. People are sick and tired of the people who actually blew Trevor Lawrence's hype up way that are on TV, giving him names and nicknames and all of that. Fans are supposed to do that, right? But you're giving him all these nicknames and all of that stuff, and then you set him up for failure when he doesn't quite live up to it, and then the narratives come out. And look, we all get it. Truth of the matter is, with the sample size of what we saw last week, you can come to one of three conclusions. It was good, it was bad, or there's a little bit of an incomplete. If you're the type of person that wants to put everything in context, then it could be incomplete because you can say, well, the defense is this and they're doing this and the coaching staff. But way before the coaches ever even mentioned the fact that they were only running 5 or 6 plays and the defensive team was sitting there trying to give them different looks and to give them good, honest looks so that they can see what they can do and what they can't. And I like that, by the way. I like the competitiveness of it. Way before that, fans were making excuses. And that's where I think we have to be careful and watch ourselves. Because the second the coach says something that justifies what we hope for emotionally, we'll think that that's it. But if you recall just last year when they were 8-3, y'all saw what you saw, but people ignored it because of the record. And eventually what you saw started happening in the win-loss column too. And it just felt like there was just this big crash on everything, when it probably wasn't as good or bad as any of us thought it was going to be. So I'm saying all of this to get to this point. What you see in training camp, you see it for real. But then to know what it means later on is an entirely different thing. And that is where it's left up to interpretation from you and I. So if I have to tell you what I see, I got to make sure I have my 20/20 glasses on and tell you what I saw. And now here's what I think. And it could go this way or it could go that way. I prefer to go in there and see Trevor Lawrence slicing and dicing. And granted, if he was slicing and dicing and not making any mistakes, then we'd be making an excuse for the defense. There's no reason to make an excuse. You only have to make an excuse when you're trying to justify something that you feel. There's no reason to make an excuse. It is what it is, and they have to do this. Okay, he didn't play well last week. He has to play better. He did today. So let's tell you that he did today. Now, I'll get in trouble because I said he played well today, and then here you go. Everybody will say, yeah, it's practice. We'll see in game week. That's just the way it goes. That's just how it goes, and that's the nature of all of this. It's a privilege to watch them practice and try to get things together. But it's also a privilege to come and be honest with you and tell you the truth about what we see. And it is entirely up to you and your emotions and your fandom of whether or not you think that thing is going to be something that prevails or something that's going to go away. Here's some advice I'll give you. In the past, we hoped things would go away, and they never did. In the past, we hoped things would go away, and they never did. So let's just hope something happened and something has gone on to make things a little bit different this year. And maybe by the end of training camp, things will get cleaned up. And even when they all get cleaned up and we're all kumbaya and ready, it doesn't mean that when they get on the field and start playing real games that they won't rear their head back up, because that is the ebb and flow of this game. And that's why every single thing that they do is important. And that is the reason why I think it's important to tell the truth about where you are, because we have seen it in the past where a bunch of little things cost the Jaguars to not win games. I will give you this update. They are way more athletic defensively, and as far as size, speed, talent, and depth than they have been in the past. We're going to find out as soon as those pads come on on July 30th, we will get an idea of the physicality of the offensive line and whether or not the defense is really as good as they've appeared to be so far. Do I think the Jaguars are a better team overall than they were last year? Absolutely. No question about it in every way. We will see if that leads to wins and losses on the football field. And we'll continue to tell you if they continue to practice well, or if they don't continue to practice well, we'll make sure that we're honest about it. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Got some Todds or some pads coming on tomorrow, man. That is July 30th, and we'll get a chance to see exactly what this team has done to improve itself physically. Till then, you guys make sure you tune in to Locked On Jaguars every single day. Catch it wherever you get your podcast. It is your team every day. We always thank you for making us your first listen, and we'll see you next time.